Seems fair to me. Well, if you don't know what fair is, you can't make it unacceptable by any reason.
Donnybrook is made possible by the members of the 9 Network.
Hey, thanks for joining us for this edition of Donnybrook. Great to have you with us and great to have the support of our friends at the Gatesworth, celebrating 30 great years. Thank you for all your support, everybody at the Gatesworth. Let's meet those who are assembled around our table for this edition of Donnybrook, starting with Sarah Fenske from the Riverfront Times. She's the editor-in-chief there and sitting in for Wendy tonight. Thank you, Sarah. Hey, here he is, Bill McClellan, one of our founders from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Another founder, Mr. Ray Hartmann, with us on the program. And from the St. Louis American and STLMag.com, we say hello once again to Alvin, Reid. But we'll kick it off with you, our post-election analysis, Sarah, with Josh Hawley defeating Claire McCaskill in what we all thought was going to be a very tight race. At least that's what the polls told us. Turns out it really wasn't that tight. I think it was 51 to 45. What exactly happened? Why did the incumbent, Claire McCaskill, not, I don't know, have a blue wave and retain her seat?
I'm going to have to defer on this one to the Kansas City Star. They did a really good election postmortem, and it turned out they were getting great access to Hawley's campaign advisors for the final month or so of the campaign, and just a fascinating story. But what they had in there, it turned out even internal polling within Hawley's campaign showed him pretty much down or at best even all the way up until the Kavanaugh hearings. And at that point, he suddenly went past her. And I think there was some moments after that where he, it looked like it might be tighter than it was. But at that point, they knew they had an issue. And he was hitting this so hard, not just that she opposed Kavanaugh, although that was a huge issue for him, but just the way Kavanaugh was treated by the Senate Judiciary Committee run by Democrats as he kept hitting. He really played that hard, and I think that really worked well for him with conservative voters, which Missouri obviously has a lot of, and with rural voters who came out in a huge way for him.
So maybe, as you pointed out, Alvin, Senator McCaskill should have voted for Brett Kavanaugh and maybe retained her seat.
I don't know that she would have retained her seat, but that was the advice that I had. I just said, decide early what you're going to do, either yay or nay. But I said, just vote for him because ultimately he's going to be a Supreme Court judge.
But I got to say, Alvin, as much as I understand some political expediency in that decision, I don't think she could have made it because I think if she had done that, I think her entire base would have deserted her. That would have been the final straw.
I think so too. I think that the whole pro-choice movement was resisting Kavanaugh, and had Senator McCaskill gone against him, I think people would have thought, oh, you're just another politician.
And I think that's right. And I think, of course, I called this, said that Claire would win, going back to my customary prognosticating ability.
Like all of us, Ray.
I was in a slump for a while. I was getting them right for a while, but I'm back to where I was. But I thought they both ran good races from their side. And I think that structurally, this was the one thing I think, and you guys had this right, I think one of the misreads I had is I figured the side that lost in the Kavanaugh would be most motivated and most upset, would be the angriest. Right. And I was wrong about that. This was really energizing. For whatever reason, it energized the Republican turnout. And Trump coming here, as despicable as I find him, definitely helped Hawley turn out the base. And this was, at the end of the day, we all thought it was going to be which side got the base out better. I don't think necessarily, a lot of people wish, and I'm one of them, that there was more bipartisanship. But if you look at the centrist Democrats, how poorly they did while they still won Congress, I'm not sure being in the middle is such a good thing.
But Joe Manchin of West Virginia, a Democrat, did vote for Kavanaugh, and he retained his seat, whereas Joe Donnelly of Indiana did not. He lost. Heidi Heitkamp, North Dakota, she did not. She lost.
Well, with all deference to the Kansas City Star, and it sounds like a good piece, I'm not sure it really was Kavanaugh. I think this was more about Claire McCaskill than about Josh Hawley or any single issue. Because Josh Hawley was an unknown. I mean, he had just got in as Attorney General. He was a Danforth protege who suddenly was mini-me to Trump. People still don't know what to really expect from Hawley, but everybody knew McCaskill. And I'm afraid that the voters, the rural voters, didn't like her.
I don't know though. I think he ran kind of like this perfect, as much as I hated it, Fox News type campaign where, I mean, look, he did not even sit down with the Post-Dispatch's editorial board to try to get its endorsement. Wow. He knew that his voters didn't care about that. And he was just out there hitting those Trump talking points, talking about that caravan, like all this stuff that people like me find so objectionable. It was like he was throwing red meat out there into rural Missouri.
And tellingly, while he was reasonably gracious about Claire and everything in his victory speech, he's out there talking about how this is about restoring our way of life. And he talked about how we aren't so different after everybody's saying how divided we are. And he referred to going from Cape Girardeau to northwest to southeast Missouri, or southwest Missouri to northwest to Columbia. It was like he somehow left out both the Kansas City metropolitan area where he grew up in and St. Louis. There was no reference at all to St. Louis. Keep in mind, Clara carried St. Louis. It isn't
84%.
so it isn't like for those of us. I think Claire McCaskill had a great career in the Senate.
Well,
and
she did.
exactly
But, you know,
what people wanted.
What's
him
interesting
to do.
about Hawley is you may
been.
not remember, but he was criticized by Kit Bond and others for sitting around and not getting off his rear end early in the campaign. So somehow he turned it around. I don't know if it was the out-of-town consultants who apparently also ran his office for a while, but he got his act together. And it's not the biggest feat when you consider that Donald Trump won the state by 19 points just 2 years ago, so he had that going for him. So, all right, well, let's move on to our other topic. Alvin, Reid, I want to ask you about the gasoline tax. You know, we haven't increased the gasoline tax since, 1992 or something like that. And it is, next to Alaska, the lowest in the country, and we've got roads that need it. But Missourians on Tuesday did not increase the gasoline tax a mere 10 cents a gallon over the next 4 years. How do you explain that?
Well, we don't have moose on the road like they do in Alaska, so we have no. Now, we need to raise the cigarette tax, okay? Probably I would say that was first, but second would be the gasoline tax. And why do I go into my voting booth and vote against it? It was all that ancillary stuff. I mean, if you just come out and said like, hey, if you approve this tax, all the money goes to improving roads and bridges. But it was everything other than that. That was one of the longest paragraph blocks of all in the county, you know, all the things we're voting on. There are a lot of words there. That was enough for me. That was just like red flag alarm, like, dude, your money ain't going to an area road. It's going to the state patrol and the, you know.
Well, I voted. I voted for it, but I have not with no great enthusiasm. And you guys had some good points.
You had enthusiasm last week.
Not really. All I said was that we can't keep waiting for make the perfect the enemy of the good, as far as, but that we need. I completely agree with Alvin that the tobacco tax being so ridiculously low is more of an outrage. But there's no good reason why Missouri should, with its central location, be one of the lowest fuel tax states in the country.
Well,
but they got to get it right.
Make that about the ballot. This, like Alvin was saying, this thing even had, if you pass this, we won't tax Special Olympic medals. And the people who run Special Olympics said, we don't tax medals. It was like whatever they could think of. The Highway Patrol, good. How about Special Olympics? Well, throw that in. And all it was for roads and bridges.
It was
poor. They were saying that, we have to sort of pass it through the Highway Patrol. But I know a lot of people who voted against it because they did not want the Highway Patrol to have that money. If it had gone to MoDOT, they would have voted for it. And the backers said, that's just, it's just the details. Don't worry about that. But people did worry about it.
Absolutely.
I think it's a good lesson for them going forward. They will be back with something.
And they should.
And you guys are right. It should be just about the roads. It doesn't have to be. But they also should be looking at tolls.
Well, I definitely agree about tolls. Now, the voters in the county did raise their sales taxes, Bill, like you suggested they do, 1/8% to fund.
I'm sure they listened to me, Charlie.
I think they did. They were taking copious notes last week when you said vote for the sales tax increase. So now, do you expect the Missouri Botanical Garden, the Art Museum, the History Museum, and maybe the Symphony to seek a sales tax increase in the county?
No, I don't. I think people love the zoo, and they like the symphony. They like the botanical garden. Those are good things, but and happy to support them with the zoo museum district. But well, I don't know the symphony.
Symphony's not in the
Symphony's
district.
not,
They
okay.
tried, but that's okay.
But the botanical garden, the science center, the history museum, and so on. But the zoo is special. I mean, here in St. Louis, where we beat ourselves up all the time about things, we feel like we have a world-class zoo and it's free. And the zoo has sort of track record that whatever they want to do, most of us are willing to give them a chance.
And just to back that up, I will say that the zoo is, going to build this new facility in the county, and the county voters were voting on it. If it would take the botanical garden or the art museum, if they're saying we're going to do something in the county, would you support it? Now they're late to the party. People probably say no because we gave all our money to the zoo. But that was a portion of it too. It wasn't like the zoo said like either pass this tax, city and county, or we'll start charging at the door at the zoo, because I don't think that would have passed. The reason this passed in St. Louis County is because the new facility will be in St. Louis County.
Well, the zoo did it. Look, there was a foregone conclusion this was going to pass because people love the zoo. I love the zoo. I was against it. I think it was one of the worst acts of.
You don't love it.
No, that's not true. I do love the, I actually do love the zoo, but I also don't think that the zoo operating with the equivalent of a rotary tile wall phone as its strategy to tourism in 2018 is very smart. And we could keep
You're
going.
talking about no admission.
Yeah, it's just it's almost it's so wrong that the zoo should be, and the zoo adopted the concept that those who pay or get in free. So those of us in St. Louis County now get in free. This is a recurring tax every year to use sales tax.
Ray, the voters have already spoken.
No, I said
they listened to you last
I got
meeting,
it.
and they said no. Ray.
the thing is, though, no, Ray's right.
I'm making a point that the zoo
but I
will
think you guys are
continue to be
wrong.
a great zoo.
I think that because the county is passing so many sales tax increases these days, the botanical garden, they'll figure it out.
Nobody
They'll
else.
have it
Charlie.
in Kirkwood or something.
No
They'll
other
move something in
institution.
there.
That's why the zoo shouldn't have done
You're out of
this.
your mind. When was the last time one of these sales taxes lost in the county?
Oh no, the sales tax lost on the soccer team. All right,
That was the city.
That was the city.
Yeah.
And
We're proud of that one. Yeah.
the city's not going. Now here's where the city is.
The reason it wasn't in the county is they knew it would lose in the county.
Yeah,
I mean, come on now, Charlie.
No, that's because that
we're
may be true.
discerning.
No, but what you have right now, the county, as of this sales tax, will be paying $40 million a year to the zoo, while the city pays through its property taxes $3.6.
Okay.
That's the new
All right,
math.
right. And
But
the
we
city,
don't get to come to the new facility, though. We have to pay
have
if
to
we
pay.
go to the one in
Right,
North
right.
County.
And the
It's-
city-
it's
And
so-
it's going
Seems
to be
unfair.
nice, Charlie. You've
Yeah.
heard about it. It's going down the stream and giraffes coming over.
Bill has done an excellent job of laying out how irrational this is, and I agree with
We'll
him
see.
completely. The other
He agrees with
institutions
me. He
don't.
loves the zoo. Neither. You don't
Excuse
agree
me,
with
I do agree with you that it was irrational, and that I also agree that
You know
there's
what?
no
The funny
chance
thing
that
is-
the other institutions are getting
Funny
taxed.
thing is, no
None.
one ever said in any of us that this was the last tax increase for the county. No one ever said, okay, we're at 11, 12%. This is it.
No, but wait. But now you're saying
the
that
zoo
I'm telling
no, wait a
you,
minute. You're
there
saying
are-
that us
there are-
residents of the county can't discern when enough is enough.
I'm telling
And
you, I'm right on this one.
All right.
And there are political operators right now who are taking phone calls from many people who are planning on an off-year election, maybe April, maybe August, to get a sales tax increase in the county.
On what?
And we'll be talking about
On
it
what?
here on any of the things
I
I
think the
already
zoo
mentioned,
ought to come back for
including
more next year.
I think they ought to
Yes.
just like, look, if you say like, hey, art museum, hey, Alvin, you could have like a Picasso in your house for $100. I'd give him $100.
Hey, Alvin.
I can
Yeah,
display
oh,
it
you're
for a
not
month.
I know how much
Okay,
you like
Alvin,
it.
let's move
Well,
on.
hey,
All
with
right.
these-
How
I
about
wanna
this?
know, with you guys
No.
come, if the zoo comes back for another one next year, you okay with it too? Maybe another
Well,
one.
it depends on what it's for.
Yeah, absolutely.
What is
All
it
right.
for?
Oh,
Okay.
of course, for the zoo.
All right, we're moving on.
All right.
I want to ask you, Alvin, what I call the, what shall we say, the Missouri mystery or conundrum or paradox. How is it that the state of Missouri voted for Josh Hawley, right? But also voted to, increase the minimum wage and enact legal pot and maybe a lot of liberal issues you wouldn't ordinarily associate with someone like Josh Hawley. How is that possible?
Well, let's go back to August with Right to Work. Blasted. Just got killed, okay? And this is what I would say to Hawley voters, but primarily in, rural areas. I would say like, okay, why are you voting this way, but then voting for Hawley? I think you're expecting things from Josh Hawley based on what he has said in churches and things like that, that in their mind, they think, okay, this is the first step to Roe v. Wade and outlawing abortion. And we're going to have church in schools, and we're going to stop teaching that dreaded, evolution stuff in public schools and all that. I think there are people that honestly believe that this is like a crest of some things that are, constitutionally protected being changed, and that's not going to happen. And I think they are all for medical marijuana and for, these other issues, because if you're in construction or you're in this, you don't like right to work, and medical marijuana might help people with glaucoma and all that. They're all for that. But I think what the message that I think they've missed during the campaign cycle is
Religious conservatives?
Some of the things that are being not promised, but just talked about aren't going to happen.
Okay.
So
Well, I think, Alvin, you're wrong.
thank you.
No, I find it disconcerting that I was a strong McCaskill supporter, didn't like Hawley, but the voters were much more discerning than I expected. I mean, they got marijuana right. I mean, they got the correct one, voted down the other two, minimum wage, the Amendment 1 was at the...
Clean Missouri.
Yeah, Clean Missouri. They made some smart decisions, and, it's too easy to say, well, I don't think they really knew what they were doing. They seemed like they knew what they were doing.
I don't
That's
want to
what I
I
thought.
don't want to keep talking about Fox News, but I swear I think that is like the thing that solves this whole mystery, to me at least. I think there's been some really smart demonization that you see of Democratic politicians like Claire McCaskill, where you see a lot of rural voters being turned off to them. And Hawley ran very smartly on that, where he kept trying to claim she was corrupt and that her husband was making all these millions from the government. And if you actually looked into it, it turned out it was a lot more complicated than what he was saying, but it really stuck. Whereas if you ask people what their positions are, they're like, yeah, I'd like to see some good government reforms. I'd like medical marijuana. But Claire and Maxine Waters and Chuck Schumer, get these people out of my life.
I think that's exactly right. We Americans vote more and more with their gut and with their general sense of, and the genius of Trump politically with his base, and it is genius, is his ability to exude power and to exude strength and consistency, and people react to those kinds of things. Americans more and more are not that ideological in how they vote. And the exception, which you've hit on, in Missouri is the guns and God. There's a sort of, which is very emotional. I don't think you're correct about them not getting some of the victories. I think Roe v. Wade will be a thing of the past within a couple of years, which my liberal friends are always so aghast. I actually think if it becomes it is a very dangerous issue for the Republicans if, in fact, this becomes a state-by-state deal, because all of a sudden, it's one thing, talk about genius. Ronald Reagan was the one who created the idea of running hard against abortion, but not governing against it. Yeah. No, but I'm saying the same thing, or the same topic, is that they want to run against it, not govern on it. And I think that they really voted with their guts. And that's one of the reasons I wanted Claire to be more just sort of stridently out there, but I'll never second guess her, because she really worked. She did her best.
Could it be that in Missouri, this is the best economy that most Missourians have ever seen in 50 years?
No.
Wages are going up. Unemployment is down.
That had zero
and
to do
she's
with
the
it.
one who voted against the tax cuts. She's the one who doesn't endorse
didn't have anything to do
doesn't
with
have
it.
anything to do with it. Huh?
That had zero to do with it.
And you know how?
Because,
how is that?
Well, because first of all, Democrats wouldn't have won the House. If that's all people were voting on, that wouldn't have happened.
I'm talking about in Missouri.
In Missouri, that had zero to do with it.
So you don't think that the economy doing as well as it does, and you won't
Hawley
give the president...
Hawley would have got the exact amount of votes if the economy was still in.
The rural Missouri, I don't think there's a big economic boom.
Where's their
I'm
boom?
sorry. What part of Missouri are you seeing this booming anything?
I mean, the lowest unemployment rate in years,
and people make it
the
like
highest percentage of people in the workforce.
And those same people went out and said, we gotta increase the minimum wage because I'm on minimum wage. They ain't worried about no economy. They trying to get another quarter an hour.
I'm telling you that people in this state are identical.
No, I'm sorry.
We're just rolling. That's why we have such a well-funded education
If the
system.
president has an economy that goes down, he's in trouble. But if it continues like this, he will be reelected. It's not because of all the hate or whatever that is. Times are good in Missouri.
Can I say this?
Hawley running on that?
wait,
I mean, that wasn't his campaign.
Yeah,
His
right.
campaign
Hawley-
was
Yeah,
throw
he
Claire
didn't say
out.
it.
Sarah's right. Hawley didn't campaign on
Right.
the economy. He campaigned on hate and fear.
Right.
Yeah.
Kansas governor, he lost. All right. Great economy in Kansas. They
Well, no, not
elected-
quite. It's quite a little bit different in
Wait,
Kansas.
well, I'm just
Well, since Rex Singfield blew it up with all
gay
the tax
woman,
cutting.
Native American elected in Kansas.
yeah, but Kansas is a different economic
Why?
story
Because
than
no, wait.
It is
Kansas.
not.
No, it is. Because
Wait,
Kansas
wait,
has
Kansas
has a
Charlie,
whole different
Charlie, I'll
model
bring it
because of
back.
what's going on in the taxes
Yeah,
and the
right.
legislature
No, I'll
there.
bring it back. Kansas was Missouri before Missouri was. You go back 6 years, Kansas was passing all these
You
tax
guys-
cuts and all that, and it blew
you-
up.
you
Where is
guys
this
are
buzzing Missouri? I know it. When we got Amazon, I forgot. Oh wait, what are you?
I got to tell you,
talking
Ray,
about?
the unemployment rate in Missouri and in St. Louis area is very low. Right now, employers can't find workers. That's the
okay.
situation
Right now, wait,
It's
employers
a-
also
Charlie.
can't
and wages
find
are
the key.
up.
Charlie,
And wages
the
are up.
black- wait a
Have you
minute.
not read David
Charlie.
Nicholas's columns?
Charlie.
Do you read David Nicholas? They're up like
Charlie.
a buck an
Yes,
hour.
I like David
Charlie,
Nicholas.
the black unemployment rate is as low as it's been. Are black people doing well in America right now?
Actually, at 6%, it's about the lowest it's ever
Wait,
been.
I'm saying that. Are
Right.
black people doing well right now? Are black people going out rejoicing how great the economy is?
Yes, they are.
Well,
Alvin,
I-
because Missouri's economy, particularly in the city of St. Louis, is just booming. I mean, it's like, look, I don't.
Yeah,
I mean,
all right.
ask the grocers, local grocers, find out how well businesses. I mean,
What are
it's
you
not.
talking about?
Why
I'm
do you say
talking
like a
about
bunch of
this
stragglers?
is
Go
not.
ahead, shop and
people are always
say,
struggling.
the economy's-
The number of
yeah.
people on food stamps is down. The number of people on disability is down. The number of people looking for work is up. The number of people
talking.
out of work is down. What economy are you guys even talking
We're
about?
What
talking
economy
about
are
the
you
economy where
talking about?
stores are closing. I mean, you don't have to try to find a Sears.
Right.
What else is
They just
Well,
closing?
there's
announced
something
it-
called Amazon. It's taking
Sears
over.
is doing
Well,
so.
yes.
They just announced they're
All
closing
right,
a
well,
bunch
Ray,
more.
let me ask
Lowe's.
you.
How's
Let me ask you.
Lowe's doing these
okay,
days?
based on what you guys are saying, if times are so bad, Democrats should have taken over the Senate, and
we
there
said
should
it
have been
didn't
more than
matter.
30
You said
seats
it
changing.
mattered.
Like, hang
We
on a
say
second.
it
Alvin,
didn't.
can I say a couple
All
words?
right.
Why didn't Democrats win more than the 30 or so seats when, after all, in recent years, they would, in midterms, the opposing party would take over 64 seats, 56 seats, 35 seats?
This
Why
was an
so few
election
this time?
everybody took home, got a trophy. Okay, the Democrats won the House of Representatives, which, while it's not quite divided government, at least one branch of government is divided, and that's good. That's probably good as a general rule for the country. And so it was a big deal that they won the House, and I don't have the Senate was almost impossible just because of the nature of and that could happen either way. It may happen to the Republicans in 20, where you're defending such a disproportionate number of Democratic seats happen to be up that they would have had to run the table. And it's interesting that the centrist Democrats, the ones that the country's calling for, the moderation,
Here's the thing, though.
did the worst.
And as did the moderate Republicans,
Right,
Ray. I mean,
exactly.
the few seats that the Dems were able to knock off were the Republicans we like.
That's because people
I mean,
are-
I don't mean that we dislike all Republicans.
That's because
but the Republicans who are in the center fell off, were pushed
Well,
off.
and you had a lot of Republicans, 30, who were retiring, so they were opening up those seats. But by and large, after Parkland, after the Me Too movement, after Kavanaugh, I think many people expected there would have been a greater Democratic wave than what happened.
I didn't. I mean, like I say, I didn't. I know it's like this whole thing with like rural votes and McCaskill. Not surprised. That's where we are right now. Uphill battle. But like I said, all this Democrats are dead in Missouri and all this blah, blah, blah. Look, like I said, look to the West one state. Look all around where these people won the House and all that. So like, look, take what you can get. Because after Obama won, it was 2 years later, and maybe they won more seats and all that, but they just won the House. And they were ecstatic because they knew what they were going to do and they had a game plan. Now put that into effect.
I think Alvin's right. The sad thing about it, though, is it really was a rejection of bipartisanship in a lot of ways, and a validation of what I was talking about, running, on emotion and power and strength and hate and fear or whatever it is. And on either side, the passion triumphed over any concept of getting out of our red silo, blue silo thing.
Except under the amendments and stuff, the people voted
Right.
very knowledgeably.
But those
and
are
wisely.
those are not. It's not ideological. So I'm saying it's totally.
So you're
talking
saying that
past each
people
other.
they're using their brains when they vote, when they agree with you on measures like pot and minimum wage, but when they vote for Josh Hawley, they're just being passionate and
I'm
emotional.
not saying that. I'm just saying that most, when you talk about candidates, people are voting on emotion.
Actually, Charlie, I would say that. I do agree with what you say. That when it comes to like a Senate seat, and you're talking about maybe Supreme Court and all that, that's just it really doesn't mean anything to most Americans. In all reality, it really doesn't touch their lives.
No.
But pot and gas tax and all that, it does.
Final 30 seconds or so, the Democrats have Nicole Galloway. She's the lone Democrat to win statewide office.
That's right. She had a super flawed Republican running against her. But it's a hope for the Democrats in Missouri because it shows that if there's a terrible enough Republican running, they can still beat him. And Nicole, you know, she's done a really good job, I think, as auditor. People
And
agree with
while
that.
Hawley was twiddling his thumbs during that whole previous administration, she was on them. And I think there were some Republicans that appreciated
Okay,
it.
I think it's a
that's all the time we
cautionary
have.
tale that she didn't win by more. That she should have won by more.
Okay, let's see what the viewers had to say about last week's program, starting with Steve Schrag, who wrote, "Is it possible to submit your questions in advance of Donnybrook Your Turn, which would then be addressed by the panel at their discretion or the discretion of the producer?" Why not? You can always tweak questions in advance. No problems with that. And Alvin Reid was channeling the wisdom of the ages when he suggested creating thin congressional districts stretching from one end of the city to the other. 2,500 years ago, the Athenians intentionally built diversity into each of their new political districts. Great minds think alike, even across 2,500 years. Bravo, Alvin Reid. That from Bob Markowski of St. Louis.
Wow.
We invite you to write us, care of KETC, 3655 Olive Street, St. Louis, Missouri, 63108. The emails, letters@ketc.org, and tweets, hashtag DonnybrookSTL, which we're going to read in just a matter of moments. Thanks so much to Sarah Fenske for joining us. And don't forget your turn's coming up next. Ray and I will take your phone calls. Alvin's being dismissed. Yeah. Don't go away.
Donnybrook is made possible by the members of the 9 Network.
We're back. I think they're still calling this Your Turn. I thought we were going to change it to What We Meant to Say, in which Charlie Brennan tells you what we meant to say. But for now, we'll call it Your Turn. We just saw that nice letter describing Alvin Reid as a scholar. We don't have our Greek scholar with us, just Charlie and me. But we're excited to take your calls. Let's go to Rex from Creve Coeur. What's on your mind, Rex?
Oh my gosh, I'm the first caller.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I hate to be one to say I told you so, but I tried to tell McCaskill years ago that she was in trouble in Missouri. It seemed to me that she was trying to be non-controversial in a difficult state. But you know, that doesn't mean that Republicans aren't going to say bad things about her. And I think that in politics, you have to get people on your side by explaining why certain policies are very much in their interest. You have to get their attention by showing people that you know, you really know where their interests are. And I think the Democrats have allowed Republicans to fool them.
Okay. Well, we appreciate that. You know what? Clary had a great career. And I'm just not going to, I appreciate the caller. I don't know that she could have done a whole lot of different things. I mean, she was a genuine centrist, is a genuine centrist. I mean, left-leaning, but a person who, by her nature, wanted to work across the aisle. And people can talk all the talk they want about this. That isn't what people are going to the pay window for right now. Working across the aisle is not a smart thing politically. And I think she was a victim of that.
Don't forget, it wasn't that long ago that she was defeating Jim Talent, and I'm sure he had the same questions. What did I not say? What did I not do? And it's just a matter of the times, I think.
It is.
Hey, who's next? I think it's Jim in Ellsbury. Hi, Jim.
What's on your mind, Jim?
Hello?
Hi, Jim.
What's on your mind?
Yeah. Talk about why Josh Hawley won the governor race, or senator race in Missouri.
Yeah, what do you say?
Well, I think primarily it was because Claire McCaskill was part of the swamp that the president talks about. And she's been supportive of Barack Obama all through the years. And I think that's why she lost.
Okay.
Well, that may have been you're in Ellsbury. You probably are closer to some of the voters that voted for Hawley than some of us are here in the greater St. Louis area. You might be speaking for a lot of people out there.
Well, while we're talking to you, Jim, were you one? I assume it sounds like you would have been a Hawley supporter, which is fine. Were you also? One of the questions we had on the show tonight was, how could people vote for Josh Hawley but also vote for marijuana legalization for medicinal purposes and
minimum wage?
The minimum wage, and in August against right to work. Can you explain that sort of, the idea that people voted sort of less conservatively on some of those items but still for Hawley? What's your thought?
Well,
about that?
I can't answer for those folks, but I can answer for the fact that I think Claire McCaskill was viewed as part of the problems associated with the last 8 years of the Obama administration.
Okay.
And that people were sick and tired of that.
Okay.
And that it's time for a change.
All right. Thank you very much for the call.
Thanks for the call.
Let's go to Bob from Edwardsville. Hi, Bob. How are you?
If Missouri wants to raise more money with the gas tax, why not make it like 6.5% or 7% instead of 17 cents a gallon?
Right.
If you raised the price of gas 75 cents at 7%, you'd make the 22 cents that they're wanting to get. It's crazy to peg it at 17 cents when gasoline can go from, $2 to $4, whatever. And the second thing is McCaskill lost because of Kavanaugh. Manchin voted for Kavanaugh. McCaskill voted against him, and that's why she lost.
Now, did you vote? Could I ask? Did you vote? Would you have voted for McCaskill?
I tried to vote. I live in Illinois. They wouldn't let me vote for the Missouri races.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're from
that's right.
Edwardsville.
Yeah.
That's true. You could have tried a little harder.
Could have voted a couple times in Chicago.
What do you think about Governor
If I'd been
Ronner?
in Chicago, I could have done it.
What do you think about Governor Ronner leaving the scene? We didn't talk about that tonight. Maybe we should have.
He's no longer with us. All right.
Well,
Thanks for the call from Edwardsville. And I'm not in favor of having a percentage, because then if the gasoline spikes to $4 or $5 a gallon, then that means the tax is going very high, and that.
Do most states do? I thought most states do, but I thought it was.
Do they
all
do percentage?
I didn't think they did.
Yeah, I didn't think so either.
I don't know.
Okay, who's next? It's Bernice in St. Louis. Hi, Bernice.
Hi, how you doing?
Great.
I love your show.
Thank you.
My question is, when I went to look for the results on my computer for the Board of Election, and they have McCaskill winning by 98,000 votes. And I asked them why, what happened, is that a mistake? And they commented to me, we can't comment on that. Don't you think they owe people an explanation or something?
Are you talking about in St. Louis County?
St. Louis City.
Or city?
Yeah. Well, she might have won by 98,000.
She probably did. I mean,
Yeah.
in other words, she won the city and county. She just lost statewide. But
she got to Kansas City too, did she not?
They
Yeah.
probably are
Yeah.
kind of reserved in what they can say, so they don't look political. But Claire did quite well, I'm sure, in the city and St. Louis County. And
I think so.
In fact, I think Court Van Osten just about tied Ann Wagner in St. Louis County, if I'm not mistaken.
I'll be darned.
Because it's not the whole district.
And she got St. Charles,
Yeah,
did she?
I think I thought when I looked at least the last time I looked at the site.
Hey, got to
it
give
was
Court
closer.
credit. I mean,
Court
first time he
Court's a
ever
good
ran
young
for
guy
office.
and ran a really
well, okay.
good
So,
first
but
campaign.
what if they had put in someone of greater stature and visibility than a nice guy who had never run for office before?
I have been wondering for years. Well, I'm an independent to the left, as you know, but I've wondered why the Democrats have always kind of, with no disrespect to Bill Haas or Bill Otto or anybody, they've really never tried in the last decade to go hard for that district. And at least with Court Van Osten, they really did. I mean, he raised a fair amount of money, and he really ran a good campaign. And it was a pretty civil campaign on both sides.
Except she didn't debate.
Well, she would debate, but I mean, at least it wasn't.
What if she had debated? Who knows?
Well, maybe she was smart not to.
Yeah,
Let's
right.
go to Nelson from High Ridge. Hi, Nelson. What's on your mind?
Yeah, good evening. I'm talking about Proposition D, the gas tax.
Yeah.
And I'm reading from the Proposition D when it says, shall Missouri law be amended to fund Missouri state law enforcement by increasing the motor tax? And then it goes on down to the next pass. It says, will generate $288 million annually to the state road fund to provide for the funding of Missouri state law enforcement.
Right.
When I see that, that's a prop or bait and switch or whatever.
Right.
And I read the first line, and it comes to me, nope, this is going to go for law enforcement, not for road.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's the point Bill and Alvin made very well this week and previously, and I voted for it, but I have to say I voted for it kind of holding my nose. So to me, at some point, Missouri has to get the concept of revenues equaling services. There's got to be some movement. You being last in tobacco tax, being next to last in effectively in gas tax, but those kinds of taxes, and as I
being
pointed
misleading is not going to get it because
I agree. I agree.
People still feel burned by the casinos and the lottery, and some of us at Prop D who felt that you passed these tax increases and the money didn't go to exactly as advertised. So
got to be more straightforward next time. Let's go to the Twitterverse. Who's up in the Twitterverse? JDR 1949. Low energy, Jeb Bush could have campaigned for Hawley instead of Trump, and McCaskill would have lost. Missouri is a red state. That's why the most unqualified candidate ever for state auditor did as well as she did.
Well, I don't think she was unqualified at all. But
No. She's talking about the candidate running against
I see.
Nicole Gowan.
At Novice, Kristen wrote, I enjoyed turning on television for Donnybrook again, now knowing that I will not see all the political campaign ads before and after the program. Well, that's interesting because we're commercial free and we don't carry campaign ads. So I wonder what you're watching.
I don't know. Sister Sarah 23 writes or tweets, Hawley played to people's hearts the last few days of the election. I agree that people vote with their guts. That's why we are in the current political situation. We appreciate that tweet and all of them at hashtag DonnybrookSTL.
Yeah, people told me during the campaign they were so sick and tired of the political ads, and I just said, I don't see them because I watch Channel 9, and we don't air any of them. I mean, so it was great.
Who's next?
Charlie in Brentwood. Hi, Charlie.
Hello, good evening, gentlemen. People got their priorities kind of mixed up. They'd vote for the zoo that they don't know where the money's going and leave the tax off for the highways, that you need highways, even though some of it's going to go to the state and some of it's going to go to the highway. At least you got something going for roads that people don't have to complain about, the potholes and the tore-up highways.
Well, you may be happy to know that we'll be breeding rare cheetahs in North County, and it may be difficult to get a road to the reserve, but at least we'll be doing that there, Charlie.
Listen, I was about as opposed as anybody to Proposition Z, as you know. I wish the zoo well with the money. I mean, we have a great zoo. That's not the issue, by the way. The issue with the zoo is, and it really is with all the institutions, is St. Louis. When we do this, we always talk about city-county merger and all these 40,000-foot deals. One of the things St. Louis needs to look at is cashing in on revenue from people visiting us.
Oh, I agree.
We
I agree.
just
Toll
don't-
roads, for example.
We just don't. We don't. The exact same principle in Missouri and in St. Louis. We just are working on an outdated tourism model.
By the way,
it's killing us.
That zoo sales tax increase will be applied to food and groceries. So,
Well, of course it will be. It's regressive. But let's go to Jerry from Imperial. What's on your mind, Jerry?
Hey, guys. Great show tonight.
Thank you.
Very
Thanks.
entertaining.
Thank you.
I would have to agree with Ray and Alvin, though, on the people doing great. I mean, people are still doing the same as they was 10 years ago. The rich are getting richer, and the guys working are still doing the same.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that McCaskill lost because the Democrats need to distance themselves from the Clintons, the Waters, the Schumers, and all the Democrats that everyone is against.
hey, maybe so. But with regard to people feeling good or bad these days, this was polled just last week by the Washington Post, and 85% of Americans indicate they're doing as well or better than they were 2 years ago. 13% do polls show 13% of Americans feel they're doing worse than in 2016.
But the right track, wrong track was heavily wrong track. Despite normally in a good economy, you get higher right track. And in this case, the wrong track was well over 50%.
Because of the vitriol.
Because of the vitriol. And you know, well, and so let's keep that in mind. And as far as Claire, the caller just validates what I was saying about the emotion on.
Let's not have a pity party for Claire.
I'm not.
She said in her goodbye speech, she said, "I'll be gone for a while."
Right,
and
that's
as you know, there's a governor's race coming up in just a few
she might.
years.
Maybe she'll run again.
So do not count her. And
No,
I
I'm
think
not.
People
I
say
just
she
think-
always wanted to be governor. She would be a leading candidate for governor.
My
right
point
now,
is, if you look at her voting record, if you want to.
well, that on a lot of it, but on a lot of the main issues
Well,
that
she
people
was
care about,
progressive.
she was liberal.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
All right, let's go. Who's next?
Our next call comes from Soulard, where we say hello to Joe. Hi, Joe.
Oh, hi, guys.
Right.
I was calling regarding the Missouri mystery, why some people would vote for marijuana and minimum wage and also Hawley.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking that you guys are looking at it from the kind of Bush-Romney neoconservative perspective with the trickle-down economics and free trade. And I think Trump really synthesized a lot of platforms from both parties that a lot of conservatives naturally got behind, like, protectionist trade and, conservative constitutional judges. So I think that, people like that, not touching Medicare or Social Security instead of trying to reform that. I mean, that's what he ran on. I think that resonated with a lot of Missouri conservatives. What do you guys think?
Well, that's an interesting point. I would point out to you that his protectionism is right out of organized labor's traditional democratic labor playbook, and traditionally conservative businesses were not on the protectionist side that he is. But yes, in general, I think you have an interesting point.
It is
that
interesting.
people project. Trump has definitely, whatever one thinks of him, and as you know, I could consider him an enemy of the people, maybe for a phrase, but I do, or at least an enemy of democracy.
Well,
but I think that it's clear that he's won. He's shifted the argument.
Well, and his protectionist trade policy is exactly what Dick Gephardt had when he was representing.
That's what I'm saying.
St. Louis.
He was a
I know.
Democratic
I think you were quite wise to bring that up.
Right, well, I don't go that far, but let's go to Paul from Glendale. What's on your mind, Paul?
Yeah, on Hawley and McCaskill, I just think it's important to remember how close the race was. Hawley got 1.2 something million votes. Claire got 1.1 something million votes. It was a very close race, as most of the races nationwide were. This is a divided government. And when Hawley said in his victory speech, the people of Missouri had spoken, well, 1.1 million of them didn't vote for him. And I think he needs to remember that.
Yeah. You know what?
I think
we
it was
have
a pretty
divided
big
government right here.
I didn't think it was that close, my friend.
I think Claire lost by like 6 points, unless I saw her. I mean, it wasn't that close. I mean, I'm surprised it wasn't.
She lost by 10 points, But
No, it's 51 to 45.
It was 6 points, I think.
Yeah.
Was, but that's still a pretty
Yeah,
substantial.
I didn't think it was.
1.1 million votes, and Holly got 1.245 million votes.
Well,
It was a
do the
very
math.
close race.
No, it wasn't that close. It was 51 to 45, and in political circles, where some of these
Look it
races
up.
are.
I just Googled it.
All right.
No,
I
we
just
get your
Googled
point. There's
it.
a lot of folks on both sides. We're not as close as some states were. I mean, look at Florida. They're still trying to sort it out right now.
No, right.
But
Yeah.
we'll see. But yeah, good point. Who's next? What we get?
We have tweets. Let's see what they said in the Twitterverse. Sister Sarah 23, Hawley played
We
to
just
people's
read that.
hearts the last few days of the election. Oh, we read that already?
We did.
I agree that people vote with their guts. That's why we're in the current political situation. Thank you. A twofer for
Sister Sarah,
getting it
a lot
twice.
of attention.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's a new one. Billy G, 67. The gas tax was another Missouri scam. Alvin was right. He always is. We don't even grow tobacco, but have a lower tax than states that do raise it first. And tolls on out-of-state plates. There's more of them on 70 and 55 than Missouri plates. You're right. But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that after many years, our MoDOT lost its tolling authority from the federal government.
Oh, really? Seriously?
And
that's a
this has
shame.
been a theme of mine for a long time. If there was one state in America that needed to have tolls, it would be Missouri.
What else they say in the Twitterverse?
Crazy.
All right, was that it? Just two? Okay, that was it.
And we'll go to Tom from Beaufort. Is that right? Tom?
Yeah, Beaufort.
Beaufort. Excuse me. Where's Beaufort? I should know this.
50 miles west.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah, I just had two comments about Charlie. I don't know where he gets his information about how well Missouri's doing. He must be getting it from Trump. And the other is, as Hawley winning, I mean, it reminds me of a T-shirt I once saw. Never underestimate the power of stupid people in large numbers.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I honestly do think, and I appreciate the phone call, I think the unemployment rate in Missouri is like 3.1%, isn't it?
You're right, but I don't think that, respectfully, that people voted for Hawley because they were happy with the economy.
If the economy was horrible, they would have rejected Trump economics, right?
No, because as Bill pointed out, Hawley ran on hate and fear. I mean, he really did. I mean,
but he wouldn't have been able to. Now, let's say we had 10% unemployment. Maybe. You wouldn't have had an acolyte of the president winning the state.
We had, there were pretty good numbers with Obama in the last term. It didn't help a lot of Missouri. If you look at 2016, the numbers that Obama, the economy, was much better than it was 8 years earlier. It didn't help any. Trump still won the state by 19 points. But I don't know.
But don't forget, during those Obama years, Koster became Attorney General. Nixon was governor.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, and those were good.
But so is 16, is my point. But anyway, let's go to Kent from Kirkwood. Hey, Kent, how are you?
Hi, just fine. Ray, I'm mad at you.
Well, get in line.
You just, but I usually really like you.
I'm sorry. What did I do? What did I get?
You just blew off Court Van Ostron, who is a coming young man.
No, I didn't.
You said he was a nice guy. You did.
He ran a great. He ran a great campaign.
He is a very well educated, beautifully spoken.
He is
intelligent man. And that's not what Missouri's looking for. They're looking for Hawley.
Well, no, I think Court. No, I apologize to you if you came off diminishing Court. I thought Court started with he started with no name ID, and I thought he ran a terrific campaign. He came within a fairly close 2 or 3 points of beating a long-term incumbent that nobody came close to. He ran a great campaign. I think he's got a great future. He might well run against her in 2 years. I'm not putting him down at all. He's a very smart guy.
You just said he was no.
He is a nice guy.
He is a nice guy, but that's like he's an intelligent, well-educated guy too.
Well, sure he is.
And then Ann wouldn't even have one town hall meeting. We stood outside her office, and she wouldn't even show her face.
Yeah, well, I think that's because she didn't have any interest in debating him.
Right. Well, she didn't have any interest in doing anything about
No.
the truth of what's
Well,
going
here's
on.
let's be fair. You know, when you're ahead, you don't have an interest in going to a debate because the debate, you know, you can slip up, and that's why. And on this program, you remember, Ray, I said that one of the reasons that Claire McCaskill had asked for 4 televised debates was because she must have seen that she had some ground to make up.
I get that.
I do think it's a fair criticism of us in the local media that more pressure wasn't put on Ann Wagner.
I agree.
Debate. I think that goes to the media here.
We should have had a court.
We should have really pushed. That should have been pushed a lot harder than it was, because he did deserve that. And again, I have nothing but respect for Court Van Astern. So
okay, let's go to Don then. Hi, Don.
Don in Mineral Point. How are you?
Hi, guys. How you doing tonight?
Good.
Yeah, I'd just like to make a comment about Josh Hawley. Him getting in is one of the biggest blows to labor as far as union labor is concerned. And also, when we talk about this right-to-work deal, well, this is going to be secretly brought up again in 2019 by the Republicans, and it's going to be tried to push down our throat again.
Maybe. You know, I heard another alternative.
Maybe. Oh, no, not maybe.
No. Here's the other possibility, Don. I heard today from a Republican who's pretty well connected. Ray, you know him, but I won't mention him at this point. He said people in Missouri are looking to the Kentucky model. What's that? Right to work, county by county. And that's how they've done it in Kentucky. And then after a while, they went all throughout the state as right to work. Because I don't think the Republicans don't feel comfortable right now after the vote of the people in August to go full bore on it in January. But if they go county by county and then the counties start seeing some increased economic activity, it'll spread. That's what they're hoping.
Nothing says self-confidence like looking to Kentucky as your
hey, Louisville's doing pretty well.
Let's go to Richard from St. Louis. Hey, Richard.
I like the idea.
Richard?
We apologize to all the Kentuckians watching. Hi, Richard.
Right. I don't like the idea of the right to work. And how many small businesses are going to have to lay off their employees just to survive, just to get by?
Okay.
With the minimum wage. He's talking about minimum wage.
About the minimum wage or right to work?
Yeah.
You talking about the minimum wage proposition?
Right. And
okay.
And the marijuana thing, I think they need to legalize marijuana in Missouri and take the tax money and take the money from the tax money that they get from the marijuana and put it into our roads and our bridges, because I've had many a nights and many a days walking across a bridge, and I've seen cracks in.
Yeah, you betcha. Thanks a lot for the phone call. We sure appreciate it. Well, I think it's going to be directed to veterans, right, Ray?
Well,
the tax from the marijuana.
We can't remember what we decided to do with it, I think.
Veterans, I think, folks.
It's certainly got nothing to do with crack on the highway. Let's go to David from Soulard. David, what's on your mind?
Yeah, thanks. Well, you know, I wish I haven't seen this article that the wonderful guest on the panel tonight was talking about from the Kansas City
Fenske.
paper. Sarah, yeah, she needs to be on a lot more. But my just observation was, in terms of why the Senate race came out as it did, I really believe that, or I have the suspicion that bias against women, and certainly bias about anything remotely feminist, may have been a decisive factor. Now, I tell you, part of what makes me think that is I remember, and let me identify myself as a white gay man who grew up on the farm up in Iowa. I'm in my 60s now, but when Holly, and this is before the Kavanaugh hearing, was saying, I want her to come out, we'll debate on the back of a truck. You know, as someone who's been around bullies, that language really resonated with roughneck, rough style, and women need to be in their place sentiment.
Maybe.
Now, I think maybe I'm talking about my history. I know what that is. And, you know, I think the fact that if it is so that the Kavanaugh hearing had such an impact, that seems to suggest to me that it is founded in anti-feminist.
Unfortunately, thank you so much. That's where we got to leave it right there because we're flat out of time, David. Thanks so much for your phone call. We sure appreciate it. And thanks to everybody for the great phone calls tonight.
Appreciate it. We'll see you again next Thursday night. Will we not?
Next Thursday. Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks. Have a good night.